This episode is brought to you by the supporters of 40 Watt Podcast over on Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/40watt podcast, where for as little as $3 per month, you can help support the podcast and get every episode ad-free. For $5 a month, you'll get every episode ad-free, as well as a bonus episode every week. I can't overstate how thankful I am for the support of my patrons, and hope you'll consider joining the team and helping keep this show on the road. Hello, 40 Waters. Welcome to the first episode, Season 5. Welcome back to the podcast, 40 Watt Podcast. I am your host, Philip. This week, you're joining us in the new format. So some of you that aren't Patreon members haven't seen this yet because I didn't put it out on social media. The podcast is changing formats a little bit. And you might have already seen in the title. I don't know what we're going to title this yet, but we're gonna figure it out. Maybe the title gives it away, but there's going to be a new format. So I'm going to start alternating episodes with bringing in interview guests, because y'all know in the past few years things get kind of spotty when I get busy in like my work life or something else, and because it's hard to schedule guests, especially if my schedule is really. There's a word, chaotic. We'll use chaotic. That's not the word I wanted, but I still wanted some episodes where I actually get to talk about news, and I wanted to talk about trends and talk about some gear that maybe isn't, that's just happening right now and it's timely. But I didn't want y'all to have to listen to just me rattle on and talk about that. This podcast started that way, and that lasted exactly 4 episodes before I realized I needed guests to make it interesting. So for those of you that have been here since the beginning, or those of you that have gone back, you've heard those episodes. So what I've done is I have brought on a co-host. So every other week or thereabout, every other episode, I'm going to be joined by Jason Mays, who you may know from Play Jason or Working Class Music. Those things are linked below. They'll be linked in every episode where Jason joins me as a co-host so that we can talk about what's going on. So, Jason, welcome aboard, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm stoked about this. It's funny because when you brought this up originally, I was like, oh man, because in my head I was like, I want to do something like this, and then you brought this up, and I was just like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly, man. And the thing is, like, you and I have conversations all the time already like this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just as easy as let's just hit record and we're going to start putting these out. It's just making it regular is all it really is. Like, because there's so much we want to talk about, and there will be occasionally there's things we talk about that won't ever make the podcast because, we're not going to put that. That's just a conversation we can't have in public.
Yeah.
But what happens? This being, so listeners, we are recording this on December 31st. So this is New Year's Eve. If I get all of my poop in a group, this is going to go out on New Year's Day. So, Jason, are you a New Year's resolution kind of person?
You know what? I am. I am. I very much am. I like. It's weird because there are years that I've skipped it, but I would say I am.
So I'm not. And before we get really into this, y'all can tell I'm rusty. Jason, we skipped a whole segment that I actually have a note here not to skip. We need to talk about our sponsors of this podcast. That's a whole thing.
Let's talk about the sponsors.
I'm so excited about this format. First of all, let's talk about Grez Guitars. Y'all, Barry's been a sponsor of this podcast for a little while now. I have several Grez guitars. Jason, I know y'all did a video on a Mendocino a while back, so you've got some experience with them.
Best baritone I've ever played.
I've got one of the baritone Mendocinos, and I was playing earlier today, actually. And it is just spectacular. I don't really like that guitar when I talk about, I have too much stuff, and I do, and that's a whole other thing. And I start thinking, okay, what can I get rid of? What's a little duplicative, and not once has a Grez guitar ever crossed my brain to get rid of, because they're incredible instruments. I have my Grand Tour, which if you're watching on YouTube is the guitar above my head. go check out Barry's Instagram. Go check out the website. There's pictures and videos, and there was a video that I don't remember the name, but there's a video of a guy playing one of the new Grand Tours with humbuckers, and he's just doing the most mind blowing jazz arrangement of Somewhere Over the Rainbow that it just absolutely floored me. So go check those out. Additionally, this podcast is brought to you by Summer School Electronics. Mark over at Summer School. If you don't know this, Mark is a teacher, and that's where the whole summer school vibe came from. He started as a COVID project. He learned to make pedals, and now he's making some really, really rad pedals. I've got several of them. He's brought out a whole bunch of really cool stuff in 2024. He's got a bunch of cool stuff coming in 2025. I know about a couple of things that are on the horizon coming, maybe be announced at NAMM. I think they are going to be announced at NAMM, and Jason and I are going to talk about NAMM here in just a moment.
Mhm.
But go check out Grez Guitars, check out Summer School Electronics. Their information is down below in the description or the show notes. Okay, sorry, Jason, I had to get that taken care of. Well, I'll
You're
get
good.
better. I'll get
You're
better
good.
about this.
You're
All right, New
good.
Year's resolutions. Are you good at keeping them?
Yes.
Are
Yes.
you really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so bad at it.
No,
I'm.
like
What were your ones for this year then? This
uh,
past year?
I didn't make one for this past year. That's the
Really?
thing. Like, yeah, like I think I said I was going to buy less gear. I think that may have been one which I did keep because I did buy less gear than the year before.
Mm-hmm.
But, given the job, you
Yeah.
know,
When you're doing demos and stuff's being sent to you, that doesn't mean that less gear ended up at your house.
yes, yes. But I did buy less gear.
That's good.
I Yeah.
So that's actually going to be a goal of mine going into 2025, and it's kind of like a two-part goal, right?
Mhm.
It's not just about buying gear because it's I'm not too worried about that. My thing is I've drifted away from player into collector a little too far. And so my goal this year is building skills, like
Mm.
getting better at things and doing things and not buying things. So while inevitably I'll buy something this year, it may be several somethings. I don't know. I don't know what, it's a lot. That 365 days, that's a lot of days.
Yeah.
And every day is an opportunity to buy more gear. So, um, but this year it's all about learning new skills. So I ordered an amp kit, and I'm gonna start building. And I've already started servicing amps. I've got an SVT on my bench right now, so I've started learning to service and build tube amps.
Oh
And
man.
yeah, so that's one of the skills that I've decided that I'm going to really focus on this year. I'm also about to start taking lessons again.
Oh man.
I have not taken lessons in so long.
You see,
Um,
I need to take lessons. Which is funny considering the day job, and it's just like I can if I decide to, but it's
yeah,
just always it's just time, finding the time for it.
yeah. Time is hard, man. That's the finite resource. That's the really truly finite resource. I'm gonna start doing monthly lessons, do video chat like this. I decided I've met so many amazing guitarists through this podcast, and some of them teach. And so I was like, why am I not taking lessons from some of these folks that do video lessons? So in February, I'm going to start lessons with Adam Levy, and I'm incredibly excited and terrified of playing guitar in front of Adam Levy in any capacity. So,
You
um,
got this.
yeah, it's going to be a good time. So what are your resolutions for 2025? What are you doing this year?
2025, let's see. I plan on releasing a lot of music between the band and solo stuff. Like, um, that's the one area I think kind of took a dip in 2024 was music and creating music.
Hmm.
Like like with the band we had the EP and I had that recorded and demoed out, and then we wrote a good chunk of it in the studio, or we expounded on it in the studio because we did write a good chunk of it in this. we expounded on the ideas in the studio. We didn't create them
Okay.
from scratch. We just expounded on them. So, I mean, that was really it. And to be blunt, like I haven't released solo music. Like I think I did a song for like a UA episode we did
Uh-huh.
last year, and it was just creating a song with their pedals. And um I don't know, there's just been a bunch of songs and demos that I've had and that I've just been like, oh man, like I need to be creative again and focus on that avenue because it's one that like you could easily lose, given what we do.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is weight loss, which I've been doing.
Mhm.
That one would be one that I've actively been doing, and I've already set a goal for myself. So we will see how close I will play this. I reached my end of the year goal, and there's a
Well, that's
goal I
awesome.
have. Yeah, and there's a goal I have to be at by NAM, and I'm I'm stoked to see if I can do that.
In 3 weeks.
Yes, which
Three
it's actually,
weeks.
yeah, I'm actually a lot closer to that goal than than I thought.
Well, that's good.
Other than that, really, it's just the same old. Like, really, just mental health, physical health, and yeah, just trying to be more creative. That's the big thing. I would definitely like to release more music and not just sit on it or take forever and a day to do so.
Yeah. That's on my list too. Just be more music, less music gear kind of thing, that kind of
Hmm.
mentality. Because I have already have far more tools at my disposal than I have any excuse for, and I've used that excuse, that search for sounds and for gear and for those kinds of things as an excuse not to build better skill on the guitar, not to flesh out songwriting ideas. I used to have, and I don't do it as much anymore, and I'm going to start doing it again. But I used to, do the same thing everybody does: record ideas on your phone, and I had hundreds. Literally, it was I think last count I had over 300 snippets of songs and ideas that never got fleshed out, never got developed, never really became, and most of them are trash. I mean, I know that most people who write anything, music, prose, poetry, doesn't matter. If you write, a bunch of your ideas are trash,
Yeah.
and
Well, well, I think the thing too is like with creatives, we're always writing. Like even me, like on my lunch break, I typically play guitar and I'm exploring pedals. Like for instance, the Old Blood Noise Dark Star, the newest one,
uh-huh.
that one actually inspired a whole song idea, and I was just like, man, like I need to record this. Like, and the thing is, I'm always writing, and I feel like most creatives are always creating, whether they realize it or not, and it's just more so the process of putting it to print. If you
Yeah.
and that's where I get lost because it's just like I told my band, I was like, well, we've been sitting on this remix from one of my idols that they did for us, and I was like, I kind of want to pair it with the instrumental that I've been working on, and I'm just like, oh, I got to actually record it, and then there's a demo that I want to do that I've written, and I'm like, oh man, this would be awesome to showcase these plugins from Strymon. I just got to do it. So yeah, that's the
And
goal.
that gets so much tougher as you get older too, and you're working and you're exhausted when you get home, and just the littlest frustration in what you're doing can derail at least for me. Maybe this is a
Mm,
me thing. It can absolutely derail what I'm doing. um I and some of that may have to do with my ADHD, which we were just talking before I'm starting to really start to address my ADHD is what the truth of it is, and try to take steps to uh better my mental health and my anxiety and stress. And I know nobody comes to a guitar podcast to hear about mental health, but it's the reality of it, is that
mhm.
managing all of those environmental concerns and dealing with all of those, like, issues that I don't really know the words to talk about it, but to get all of that under control, where you can balance your life and work is work and your creative pursuits are your creative pursuits, and one is not draining the energy that you need to do the other. Um, those are the things that I'm really, really looking forward to working on this year. It's gonna be a fight and a struggle, but I'm glad you mentioned the physical health too, because that's a thing I'm taking very seriously. Um, I've gotten older, and during COVID, I stopped running after I got
Mhm.
COVID for the first time, and my physical health has gotten worse and worse because I've not been able to get back to a structure of working out the way I was before. And it's not like I, lead the most active lifestyle on the planet, I go to work and I come home and I play guitar. I go to work and I come home and I play guitar. And that's most of my life.
Oh no, like dude, like honestly, it's just getting up and doing it. Like I'm not gonna say exactly how much I weighed, but last I want to say it was October. I saw myself and I'll send you the photo. It was October, and, like someone took a photo and that was the heaviest that I was. And then,
Mm,
it dawned on me like, a bunch of other things because it's like physical health ties into mental health. And if you're not physically happy, and I don't want to say physically happy. If you're not doing well physically, that's going to eat at the mental health part of it. And
100%.
so for me, it's just like ever since then, I was like, all right, well, the first time you lost weight, you hit it hard and you did, and it was the expectation of like, well, you can do that again. And it's like, well, you're older. You can just pull back and, set smaller goals and, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing for me. It's just like I realized that and not to get too personal, it's just realize I was not happy. And like a lot of that had to do with my health. And it was just like, I didn't like the fact that like, going up and down stairs was exhausting.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a real thing. And like, I know we laugh about it, but I would get to work and there's two flights of stairs to my office. One's a half flight, so it's not really a full floor, but one is a full floor. And I take the stairs. I don't take the elevator. It's one of those personal things for me. If I can take the extra steps, like I'll do the same thing in hotels, unless
mm,
I'm like fourth floor or above. I'll try to take the stairs, just because I can. But I found that flight and a half of stairs was a lot more taxing than it used to be.
mhm.
It's not it. Taking them two at a time isn't as trivial as it used to be, kind of thing.
Nah, and that's the thing though. Like for me, which is funny because at NAM I'm definitely taking elevators. I was like, yeah, like all that walking, I'll be all right. But
Yeah.
I think the thing for me is just like it all ties together. And I think part of the reason that I wasn't as creative was because I wasn't feeling good and I was, mentally depressed and physically just not doing well. So coming home, I was always tired, and it's just like the thought of picking up a guitar and just, going to town just was not appealing. And that's where my creativity suffered because it was just like it's not, you're already drained from your everyday job, and then you got to have some energy and some outlet. And it's just like for me, I just want to be back where I was. And I realized that like my old band director used to say from high school, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mhm.
That's true. It's absolutely true. That's a great way. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of old phrases that can go in that same thing, sort of like "be the change" kind of thing,
Yep.
right? But that's it. And I like the "be the change." I know it's cliche. I may as well have "live,
It's
laugh,
cliche,
love" on my
but it's
wall, but uh, but
it's
no, it's
live,
true.
laugh, love.
I know it's like,
Yeah.
but it's it's legit though. And that change that it's talking about doesn't have to be this global, like, world changing change. It could be, I want to be able to get back to running and biking. Okay, start doing it. I want to be better at, like, for example, the reason one of the reasons I wanted to take lessons with Adam Levy. um I want to be better at playing chord melodies.
Mhm.
um well, then do it. Like, it sitting around playing pentatonic single note blues lines is not making you better at playing chord melodies. If you want to do it, you have to start doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, for me, it's just like like gear is a gateway to creativity,
Hmm.
but it shouldn't be the crutch of it. And for me, like, especially with working class music, and in to an extent, play Jason. I have a little bit more leeway, but like, it just became like robotic. Like, I knew what I was going to
Sure.
do, and like, I knew, and it's like being in a band, and you know what everybody else is going to do. So it's, I have that leeway, and so I wasn't really bettering myself with my craft. And I think that going into 2025, that's something we should do. Is just we should get better at what we want to be. Wow, I almost sounded like I was like, we should get better at what we want to be better at. Like, and
I
mm,
get it. Well,
yeah.
it's like a phrase I used to use when I was running all the time, and I've always been a big guy, even at my leanest, and so I've never been fast. I was went back when I was playing sports. I was one of those fast for my size guys. Uh, so but I got into where I loved running just before COVID. I completed my second marathon. It was fun, which is not something I ever thought I would say. Uh, but one of the phrases I used to use was "better today."
Yeah.
I want to be better today than I was yesterday, and that's the tiny goal. That's where I want to do everything. I want to be better at guitar than I was yesterday. I want to be better at video editing than I was yesterday. I want to be better at ant building than I was yesterday. That kind of
Actually,
thing.
actually, that's another one I forgot to mention. Something I want to take the reins of is video editing.
Mm.
The little that I've done it so far, I'm just like, okay, you can do this. It just takes time. And like, funny enough, I sent Nelson a video I shot, and like, it was a rough draft, so it was just edits. Like, and he was like, dude, I hate to tell you this, you have to do it all over again because the framing was so bad. And I was like,
Oh
damn
no.
it. I was like, you know what? I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna use this to get better. Because like at the end of the
That's
day,
it.
like I'm gonna find a tool. Like I was like, well, okay, so since I messed up the framing, I gotta get an external monitor so I can have my camera hooked up to so I can see the frame if I'm gonna do
Yeah.
all this by myself. And like, I think video editing is definitely one of the things, and like, because I definitely want to turn out more content, and I don't want to bog Nelson down with like, hey, we have a release schedule of every week. So
Yeah.
there's a couple things, especially with a couple product drops that I'm taking the reins on, as far as like at least editing the rough draft.
Hmm.
Um and one of them is really cool. I wish I could talk about it, but one of them
I know.
I haven't gotten it yet. But when it was explained to me, I was like, just send it me. Just send it. I'm in. But like, but overall, yeah, the creative process. I guess you can shove video editing under being creative.
I think
And
so. It's a skill that leads to creativity. It's all part of it. So yeah, I similar goals for me, I think. I want to, and I know this is weird for a guitar and guitar gear. I really think of this podcast more of like a guitar music podcast than I do about a guitar gear. But obviously, inevitably, we're going to talk about a lot of guitar gear. Um,
yes.
it's just one of those things. But I want to focus less on gear on an individual level. I want to stop just lusting after every single thing that comes out, and I want to focus more on what am I doing with the tools I have.
See, to add to that, I think I'm in a similar boat, but I
Mhm.
think content wise this year, I want to stay away from stuff that doesn't excite me, because to be real with you, over last year,
Mhm.
and not all, like the guitars excited me. The guitars were like, I want this, like,
Yeah.
but I was just so burnt out on certain things that it's just like,
Three knob
and
overdrives.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but no, not even that. Like, just in general, there was certain things like pedals was one of them. Like, and me being an effects heavy guy is just like, whoa, I don't think this could happen. So I think I want to get back to, like you, focusing, which is weird to say as a gear channel, focusing less on gear that doesn't enthuse me. And like, I
Gotcha.
think, just being honest with myself, um, with certain things, because I don't think last year there was any, well, no, there was a couple that I was just like, I found a reason to do it. Like one of the reasons was like, hey, this is affordable, and I want to help people make music. So, granted, I'm not like Rhett Shaw levels of fame, and but like I was like, okay, you can do this not necessarily because you want to do it, but you do view it as a good product, and it's within most individuals' grasp.
Yeah.
Like, so it was like, so I found I don't want to say excuses, but like, I tried to look out I try to look at things as do it for other reasons besides, hey, you know, I like this and I just
Yeah.
like it, So I think this year I'm just gonna stick to things that I truly enjoy because not saying product drops I'm gonna stay away from, but like I think I'm just gonna do a better job picking the things that speak to me.
Yeah. That makes total sense. And I think as long as you're honest about it is the important thing, right?
Mhm.
It's because I know that there's a whole thing where people lose their minds when YouTubers or demo artists or whoever it is, reviewers, never say anything negative about a product. I've said negative things about things before. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but you don't want to be a channel built on negativity, or you don't want to be a person whose views are built on negativity. Because it's draining being
No, it's
negative all the time. You just don't want to be a negative person. I'd rather say up front, like you're saying, if I'm reviewing it and doing a video on it, I like this thing. This is a
yeah.
thing that I do. Um, I'll use an example and just being real, just to be really real. A sponsor of this podcast, Summer School Electronics. I love Mark and I love the pedals he makes. Most of the some of the things he makes are very rooted in like 90s grungy sounds, right? Which is not my wheelhouse. They're not my sounds. Which is totally fine. He did bring out a boost last year called the Extra Credit Boost. That's in my wheelhouse. I love that thing. In fact, I tried to do a video on it, but that's when my two notes took a dive and I didn't get a video done. That's okay. I'm going to do one later this year. I do love the overdrives and the distortions and I can only do so much with like extremely feature laden delays and reverbs,
See,
and it's like
see, two things. Like, it's funny you mention that because for me, I think the thing that I got burnt out on the most was modeling.
This
And
podcast is supported in part by Stringjoy Strings. I'm a snob, at least that's what people tell me. I'm never okay with good enough, and that's where Stringjoy Strings come in. They're better than good enough. They're the best. Stringjoy are making some of the finest strings available today right up the road from me in Nashville, Tennessee. They offer custom sets, balanced tension, coated strings, the works. If you need it, they can probably make it happen. You should be using Stringjoy Strings, and if you're going to order from them, you really could help this podcast out by clicking the affiliate link down in the description or show notes below. You get amazing strings, I get a little bit of that back to help the show keep going. It's a win-win situation. Get your Stringjoy Strings today.
amp modelers,
Oh
like, and
yeah.
and and the thing is, isn't what it wasn't because I was for a lack of curiosity. It was because literally within the span of like 3 weeks, between working class music and play Jason, I did the Nano Cortex. I
Uh-huh.
did we did the Fender Tone Master. There's one that I shot, but it hasn't been released, and it was the Walrus Audio. there there's a bunch, like, I'm trying to look around and think. There was a I did something with the Strymon Iridium, and like it was just too much for me.
Yeah.
And admittedly, like I think the thing is, it's just like even with me, like with delays and stuff, like I love Strymon, and like anything they send me, I'll definitely check out because they've I trust them. Like, and and for me, it's just like it's not like, hey, well, this, and this. And like there are things that like that I was pleasantly surprised by. And that's for me, that makes it even better because what I was going to say originally to add on to what you were saying is when we started working class music, we let it be known in interviews and everything that we're not going to do like a negative review, quote unquote, because we actually enjoy these things. Now there was the one exception of the gold foil jazz master, and it wasn't negativity just to be crapping on it. It's because
Yeah.
both Tia and I wanted to love this thing, and it was just the condition that it was sent. Like, it wasn't like, and funny enough, that got a very good response. But I wanted people to understand that, like, what's the point of me doing a video on something I don't like,
Yeah.
you know if it's objectively bad, like the gold foil jazz master was, that's one thing. But if it's subjectively, like then that doesn't, why, Xander's obviously like the fuzz person. Why am
Yeah.
I going to crap on a fuzz when I know, like, he's more, he's more authoritative on that, like, and the thing for me is like, okay, delays, and I'm really into our reverb and lo-fi algorithms because I think they sound distinct. Like every reverb, while it sounds like reverb, like they're all different from each other. So for me, that they're not based on the same circuit. So
Hmm.
for me, that's very adventurous to dive into. And I think the thing is, it's just like, um, I think there's a bunch of gear that going forward, I'm going to take a step back and just be like, hey, is this something that, and I'm going to try to be upfront and be like, because I mean, everything that I do like to a degree, and
Yeah.
everything that we put out, like, everything that, most channels within our friend group puts out, we all like. It's just, for me, I think I'm just going to wrap my head around, like, more so like, hey, I'm doing this because I do like it, but the main reason is because it's affordable and it's good.
Yeah.
Like
That
it,
makes total sense.
yeah, and it's just like, I'm sitting on the DM 101 that I was going to do a video on, and I'm excited about that. Like that's which is funny because I've been trying to get Boss to send me one, and they finally sent me one, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a video on this. And then I got the GX10, which funny enough, I still have yet to pull out because I've just been so drained. And I'm
Yeah.
like, let me take a break. I'm gonna, and the main reason I'm doing it is because it's a alternative to the HX Stomp, and it's something that I feel like if you're looking into like the all-in-one modeler and effects and profiler or whatever, it's a good thing to look into. Like,
Yeah.
so
Especially giving a competitor to the HX Stomp, because I feel like competitors to that product have come and gone, and the HX Stomp is still sitting here going,
yeah,
who's next?
yeah. Who's
Because
next?
that thing, I I still think, well, I keep a watch list on them on Reverb, just because, not because I want to buy one. I've had one in the past. I love them. I have the fully leaded Helix, and I have an HX Effects on a pedal board. Um, but I like to keep an idea of how much they're going for, and they dip into the like used 450 range, but typically they stay at like 525. They'll dip for a little while and then they'll jump up a little bit, but that's around the median or mean. I'm not a statistician, I don't know. But I think it's really, really impressive that that product has held its value and sort
Yeah,
of its place, and to the point that it's on literally its only real competitor is the HX Stomp XL.
yeah. I mean, but that's the thing though. Like, I think we've entered with the HX Stomp, and it's kind of like the Helix just in general. They've been around for what, 10, close to 10 years?
Yeah. I
Uh,
think I looked this up a few days ago, but
well, I
go
know the
ahead and I'll look it up.
Helix. Well, I know the Helix has been around to close to 10 years.
Yeah. So the Helix released in 2015. So this is
Yeah,
the 10-year of the Helix. HX Stomp released on, I don't trust you, Google AI. Let me find it somewhere else. Um, it looks like, if that's to be believed, 2018. So October 4th,
yeah.
2018.
So I mean, for me personally, like I said, because admittedly, I'm not the biggest. I'm not who modelers are for,
Yeah.
and I am definitely more tube amp and pedals purist. So for me, reviewing like the Nano Cortex, which I was like, holy crap, I can model all my amps, like I can profile all my amps and just have it there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But like, something like the GX10, I'm just like, man, if I can plug this into a speaker and just like create a lot of the things that I do with my pedal board w- in this one package and have the amp sound good, I'm in. And it's something that I think that, I think people would get a lot of use out of. And I think that's the thing, is just realizing, like, because everybody's just like, oh, anytime you mention like, oh yeah, this is the sponsored video, they're like, oh, I'm gonna tune out,
I
you're not gonna.
know.
And it's just like, dude, like the only reason I can't speak for everybody, but I can, for myself, like, you know I just try to do things. In the past, I've tried to do things just because, like I said, it falls under one of those two things. And and I think going for 2025, I'm just going to do more. This is what makes me happy,
Yeah.
and then try to still keep the, like, hey, I think this is a good product for you, and you know and just be transparent, because it's just like, I don't know, people are damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like on my on the Player 2 Jazz Master video, I got so many dang negative comments about like, oh, you're sponsored, of course you're going to say this. And I'm like, dude, it's a Jazz Master. like like
it
that's what
didn't
that
matter
was.
if they gave it to you or not. You're going to say
Yeah,
good things about most jazz masters.
I'm like, dude, like, I let it be known, like, even in the working class music video, like, I let it be known, like, hey, like, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Player One Chicago Music Exchange Jazz Master.
Uh huh.
Like, and but people just gloss over that, and it's just like, oh, like this and this. And it's just like, I don't know, like, yeah.
People are going to,
2025.
yeah, people are going to be disgruntled if they're going to be disgruntled. And one of the best pieces of advice another YouTuber gave me, because the YouTube for 40 watts pretty small still, and most of it is through the audio side of things, which is fine. I do have a goal of growing the YouTube channel a little bit this year. And I've got some things coming up. I'm hoping we're going to be able to do a giveaway here real soon to maybe drive some of that, and folks love a giveaway. But when got a couple of negative comments, and it never doesn't suck to get some of these hateful comments that you get. But I asked someone about it, because I'm a big believer in, like, just people have opinions, let them have their opinions. And they told me, nah, screw them, block them, make them so they don't even know that they're blocked, because apparently on YouTube that's a thing. They can keep
Hmm.
commenting and never know that they're blocked. They
Hmm.
don't know that nobody sees their comment.
Yep.
And I think that's beautiful. And they're like, no, block them, you don't have time for that. And I think that's really another thing that I'm really taking into this year, is that I'm making an active effort to cut negativity out of my life. And it's not that there's nothing to be learned from criticism, but when things are just negative for the sake of being hateful and negative, I'm just like, no, I'm done with it. I'll give you an example. I've listed a couple of guitars recently on, like, Facebook Marketplace and over on the gear page for trade. And I had one listed. This is so stupid. The dude messaged me. It was actually this morning as we're recording. I woke up to a message that said, I'd rather have a PV. It's like, dude, I
Then
didn't
buy a
I
people.
I
to get
didn't
a
message
PV.
you.
Like,
I listed something. You bothered to click the message seller and tell me that you'd rather have a PV. Well, man, I'm not selling a PV, so I don't know what to do. It's like, it's that kind of just like, you went out of your way to, and that's mild negativity. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, it's not, but it's that whole mentality of, I'm going to go out of my way to express this absolute ridiculous take for no reason. Nobody asked you. And I see it all the time. And then, like, there was a post on Instagram, I think, and I don't remember what it was, but um somebody commented, why am I seeing this? I hate this. I was like, well, congratulations, sir. You're going to get a lot more of it now because you engaged with it.
mhm.
Just scroll by, y'all. Click on a different video, move on. If you don't like this, that's fine. And I say this in the broader spectrum of whatever it is you're doing. If you don't like it, okay. If you have a genuinely constructive criticism, say that.
Yeah,
That's
no, like
fine.
that's the thing. Like for 2025, I think I'm just gonna, for me, I'm just like all the negative comments have been just good trolling pieces that I can
Yeah.
just post on my story. And like, the constructive comments, like I'm just like, yo, like no, I actually listen, and I'm not going to like um be negative and just be a douche about it. Like, no. But I think for 2025, it's just like um for lack of a better term, and I know you're a Gibson fan, so you'll get a kick out of this. It's more authenticity.
Gotta
So
gotta play authentic, man.
yeah.
Gotta play authentic. Just be authentic. I like that. I think that's really important. Just be you, and that's fine. And there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. And that's who I am. That's who I'm gonna be. Um, I I I tell people all the time. People ask me about, what do you think of these things? And sometimes I have to say, I've never tried that. I had somebody ask me about I'm not going to remember. It was some pedals. I was like, I got to tell you, I've never played one. I've never touched any of these, um, and I don't know. Here's some resources, and then I'll say, but there are some people whose opinions I tend to trust, and they like it, and that's all I got for you. Or sometimes I just won't like something at all, but I'll also understand that that's because it doesn't work for me and that it works for someone else. And obviously, it's to me, it's like the everybody complains about, y'all, I'm gonna go there. It's like everybody talks about the whole Gibson, the headstocks breaking, or my favorite, they don't stay in tune. Hey, can't tune a Gibson. Yeah, it's a shame that Gibsons have never been able to be used in concert or on records or in bars on the weekend because they can't stay in tune. It's a shame, isn't it?
As
It's
a
like,
recent Les Paul convert, I will
yes,
say
sir.
that my studio session um has stayed in tune way more than I thought. I am now a believer. I am now praying at the altar of Lester Palfus. Um, But I will say this though, like I think the thing for me is just like when people say something negative, for one, well, let me backtrack. I love the fact that people come to me for advice on Jazz
Yeah.
Masters. Because it validates that okay, I know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm talking about. Like, it's not like anyone's gonna come to me for advice on a strat. Like, no, that I'm not
Yeah.
that person. But, when people are just negative and it's just like, for instance, like, which intentionally the video I did on the Player 2 Jaguar was poking the bear a little bit because people were like, it's not a Jaguar. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Fender owns the IP, it's Jaguar shaped, and it
It
says
says
Jaguar on it.
Jaguar on the
Yeah,
headstock.
and it's a Jaguar. Like, just because you don't like something because they're like, well, they're cutting corners and this and this, and it's like, no. Like I broke it down for them. I was like, if you look at the Player Series Jaguar, it actually costs. I mean, the classic player Jaguar from yesteryear. I was like, if you count for inflation, it actually costs more than the Player 2. And I was like, if you look at how Fender is like leveled out all their different things, I was like, they've stayed relatively the same price. once you count for inflation, and they're doing the same thing. Like, yeah, you have a stripped down version, okay, for people who don't want all the chrome. Like, I get it. And then you have the $1,500 version, which admittedly, $1,500 for a made in Mexico is steep. That's a
Yeah.
hard sell. But when you pull out the inflation calculator, it's just like you're like, oh wait, so the classic '60s lacquer was what, 1,400? Like
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's or
I
the
had
when
one of
they
those.
yeah, so
Not the
it's
Jaguar, I had one of the Jazz Masters.
yeah, so it's one of those things for me. It's just like it's people are going to complain, and as far as gear goes, I have to tell myself we're all passionate. We all have our opinions. Although, quite frankly, I don't understand why you're going to go to someone else's platform and just be negative, like
Hmm.
berate them. Like I don't see the point in that. Like, it's but I also understand that it's the internet. And for me, like, and I know we keep going in circles, like, but for 2025, I'm just like, no, like, um I like the fact that that people trust me enough with jazz masters and certain pedals. Like,
Yeah.
so, and I'm just gonna
I mean,
just be like,
I go to you when I ask reverb questions, so
yeah,
I know that you're into that kind of stuff and delays. Like
yeah.
I'm such a simpleton when it comes to those things, and
And
uh,
but it's
go
funny
ahead.
though, because like people will like come to me with like pedals like that, and they often find my answer surprising. And it's just like I always break it down to like, do you want a programmable BPM? No, then go with this. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you do, these are your options. And but I think the thing with our community is just like, I have to tell myself that everybody's passionate, and I have to realize that what may work for me may not
Mhm.
work for anybody else. Like, I don't understand, like, and to me it's just like, if you want to be critical offender and the lack of like um vintage, a one for one vintage Jaguar,
Mhm.
that's cool. I get that. That's a critique I get. But to say, but when you draw that critique into just subjective criticism, that's when it's just like I can't, I like, you're saying that the player two isn't a vintage Jaguar, but the player series isn't aimed to be vintage. That's why there's the Vintera. Like, that, it
Yep.
says it in the name. Like,
The
well,
Ventera 2 is there.
yeah.
I think maybe some Jaguar players are still a little jaded that they got left out of the American Vintage 2 series, that there wasn't an AV2.
I'm just gonna say this because I have no insight on this. But if
Uh-huh.
you checked out the recent Guitar World interview with uh what's his name? I forget his name. Something Abasi.
Oh,
Uh,
Tosin?
no, not Tosin.
No, no, but that's the only
Not
Abasi
Tosin.
I know.
Um, but basically, he said that the Jaguar players have been heard, and so
Oh.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is one on the horizons. And no, I don't have it. If there is one, um,
You
but
wouldn't tell us if you did. See, we can't trust you,
no.
Jason. You're
Yeah, I know you can't
untrustworthy.
trust me. Yeah, and then the video drops of like, oh yeah, the AV2 Jaguar. Like, yeah, like,
I love
it's
it.
like,
Now, I see. And we're going to move on a little bit because we do need to get over to the Patreon episode here in just a little bit. But as we sort of wrap up 2025 views, I realize that you know about a few things that are coming out that you can't talk about.
mm-hmm,
Um, but what are your like hopes to see in the industry? As we get onto that, I do want to mention that as my ADHD brain has brought it back, you did mention the whole people super passionate. Um, Over on 60 Cycle Hum this past week, they talked about this and it really kind of stuck with me. Um, that I think there's a difference between being passionate and too serious and like
mm-hmm.
taking it too seriously. You can be passionate about something and the things you like, and it still be fun and you not be hateful about it.
I
And
mean,
that's where I want to see more people start falling.
and I agree. Like, I agree. I think something like this. You were in the 60 cycle hum group when someone posted that Rhett Shull thing, and I came in and I was like, dude, I'm not gonna crap on him because the dude puts in work. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, you know, and I think stuff like that is stupid. It's just like, dude, you're hating on someone for being successful.
Yep.
So it's just like when when you go to the gear world, like everything for me, and I could even say Rhett, everything that Rhett has shown you, he isn't just selling you. Like, he's
Nope.
being straightforward with his opinion, but you're
Hmm.
going to criticize him because he's being straightforward. But the vendors trust him enough to send him the stuff, knowing that he's going to be straightforward.
Yep.
Like, it makes no sense. Like,
No, and a lot of people are getting really upset about the there's a whole thing about selling lessons and selling packs and doing things, y'all, because that's like I get to live in a space, and Jason, you get to live in a space where we don't do this full time for a living. We have full time jobs that keep us busy um, otherwise. So, but there are creators out there who are creating obviously valuable content because it's getting an awful lot of views and interaction that people like. And they've got to keep the bills paid
yeah,
somehow. You know, that's the end of it. I think there was a thing that was bouncing around threads here this past week, and it was a someone that everybody was taking too seriously, but he said something like, um, I'll never pay for Spotify, which okay, strong start. I'm here for some a little bit of Spotify hate. I pay for Spotify Premium, but it just is what it is. But then continued to say music should be free because it's an art. And I was like, whoa, hold up, brother. Hold up. The people making it have to be able to keep making it. In order to keep making it, they got to make money doing it. So this guy's argument was that because music is an art, it should all be free and you shouldn't have to pay for any. Uh, Absolutely not. And
you,
so
you
I
know,
think that also in the same vein with some of the YouTube content that we're all watching, y'all. I don't know if you realize this, but I'm right there watching all of this with you. I'm a big old guitar nerd. I'm in the live chats of other people's channels. I'm watching the videos and the demos and all the stuff, even for stuff I don't give two shits about because I just love guitar and I love music and I love this industry.
that's
Um, and I want to see it. I'm there with you, and they need to be supported to keep doing that.
But that's the thing though. Andrew Bana, he posted this on his story, and I loved it. Like he screenshotted someone in the comments being like, "Oh, I miss when Andrew did stuff just for the love of it," and he would love it. And he's like, "I'm sorry that I'm getting paid now to do this, and I have to pay bills. Like I'm sorry that
Yeah,
I have to take money to pay bills, and I've achieved effectively saying like, dude, I've achieved a level of success doing what I love, like." You know, just I don't know. I think people are just it makes my head hurt because it's like I'm gonna be real with you. My long goal is to be able to do this full time.
sure.
Like
Yeah.
that is the end goal for me. Will I sacrifice my integrity to do that? No.
No.
Um, but that is the end goal. Like if I can get Fender to pay me to make videos,
Yeah.
I would gladly do that. Like I will, but before we go too off the rails,
Jason's a complete
you
sellout. Y'all heard it
yeah,
here
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah, Spender. I'll give you my PayPal and Venmo and Cash App. You guys can hit me up there.
All those
Um,
things.
Obviously, but like some of the things that I hope to see in 2025, because that was
Mhm.
a really
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
Um, if we're talking about brands, um, for the love of God, I feel like the Squire Classic Vibe is in much need of a facelift.
It does.
Like,
It's great, but it's a little long in the tooth now. It
yeah, like and to be quite honest, like a lot of the colors just isn't really that inspiring. Um, like I think that's if brand wise what I would like to see
Mhm.
from Fender, because I think Gibson does something with Epiphone like every year, or they did, or they're starting to, like where yeah, you do have limited edition models, which Fender
Mhm.
does as well,
Yep.
but I think. and I had this conversation. I forget with who. I think it might have been with you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think it might have been when we were saying like, I think that guitar companies just need to new finishes every year. If you're going to keep the
Yeah.
same models, just new finishes. Like,
Yeah, offer if even if just one, even if it's just one new finish, bring something out new that it can help because I there's been a lot of guitarists that have done really well by managing to do new finishes. There's a reason the Silver Sky is still on so many most
actually,
sold guitar lists.
that's the PRS was the company I was going to point to. If you
Yes.
notice, every year they have new finishes. Like they
Yep.
get rid of the old, like they keep it, like get rid of the old, and like with Squire especially, because honestly, I think with not to get too political, but the way the future, depending on the tariffs, Squire may be positioned to be the new made in Mexico.
Yeah.
And if that were the case, I think you would like Chicago Music Exchange and Andertons have proven this. If you give limited edition finishes, people will buy them in droves.
Yep.
Like, which is funny because I think the other big box music retailer, which I cannot name, they did their approach was the opposite on the Squire line, and they gave people limited edition finishes. In particular, I'm referring to the Jazzmaster and Jaguar
Uh-huh.
for the classic vibe, but they were finishes that no one wanted besides Shell Pink.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it has to be a line. Like, um, I think that's what I would love to see more companies take that approach. Like, if we're going to get the same thing, at least give us different finishes every year.
Yeah.
Um,
100%. And y'all, I get it, but like seafoam green and honestly, as much as I love it, shell pink, that kind of stuff's it's a little played out. Give us something that's actually exciting.
and the
Um,
thing is, which is funny because the company that I will not speak of, their version of Shell Pink versus the Chicago Music Exchange, I'm like, bro, you guys totally missed the mark. Like Chicago Music
yeah.
Exchange has the matching headstock, white pick guard, it just looks great. This one, just the body, kind of a tort, you know, and then nothing else. Nothing. But to I will give them credit where credit is due. They had an all blacked out version of the Meteora with a from the player series that had an ebony fingerboard. I'm pretty sure it's
Ooh.
sold out, but that I was just like, we had one, and if it wasn't horribly set up, I would have bought it.
Oh, I think I may have found one used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that the Meteor is one that's kind of grown on me, but I still think it's a better bass than it is
Hello.
guitar shape. But um,
No, I
it,
agree. I agree.
yeah,
I will say the Ultra Meteor, I stand by. Like I was pleasantly surprised. That I don't care what anyone says. That is the best Ultra that I've played out of the Ultra
really.
ones and Ultra twos. That one, like
I
the
like
only
the
big criticism isn't anything tonally. It's
yeah.
just the placement of the knob. But other than that, like sound, feel, that is what I think of when I think of the Ultras.
So for me, the Meteora, I it totally not anything to do with the as the sound of it. Not none of the sonics. It was the aesthetic of it took a little while to get used to.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it looks great. I'd like to see again, like I'm going to go sort of the same vein. I want to see even more development of Epiphone because I feel like they've done such a great job with the development of Epiphone in the last couple of years. They've got some really, really great. They've hit both the really affordable models, and then they've also introduced some more expensive, higher end version of Epiphone that I think really, really counts. Is really doing a thing to shift the brand and the mentality. I'd like to see. I I said this on Threads. I want to see a non-reverse Firebird in the Epiphone line. I I have nothing that says that's going to happen, but I do know Gibson's about to launch. We know I'm not breaking any NDAs. Sweetwater leaked it. We don't have to it's like it's not a big deal. Gibson is bringing back a platypus version of the Firebird. And by platypus, uh, basically any Firebird that had the flat headstock was sort of called a platypus. But the version they're bringing out is set neck instead of neck through. It's flat headstock. No, I say flat headstock. It doesn't have the beveling. It's still got an angled headstock. It's not reversed, so the tuners are on top. It's regular Grover tuners instead of banjo tuners. I'm really excited about this guitar coming out. I really like the idea that means they're starting to revamp the Firebird in general, because they stopped making the Firebird at all as a Gibson guitar. I have a non-reverse Firebird. It's right here. I would love to see that in an Epiphone. I think that's really, really missing. I think this is also the year, I don't know, but I know he's been talking about it for a year and a half. I think this is the year we see the Warren Haynes signature guitars come out from Gibson. They're probably going to be too expensive for me to buy them, but that's okay.
Hey, 50 grand and you can go out there and you can have, dinner with them.
I hope 25 is the year of the Firebird. That's all I'm
I,
saying.
I will say, since you're doing the more Epiphone and
Yeah.
I'm doing the more Fender, I will say I'm hoping for a Paranormal Series 3 from Squire, because there
Ooh.
is some interesting things they could pull for that. And one that I would like to see a Squire version of is the Powercaster, because that kind of failed, in my opinion, in the alternate reality that Fender
Mm-hmm.
did, the Made in Mexico one.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to see. I would and I wouldn't, like, if it's in the Squire version, just because I don't want it to affect my resale, a thin line Jaguar or Jazzmaster,
Ooh,
uh,
yeah.
because the made in Japan ones have gone crazy in terms of pricing, and I love mine, but I think there's a bunch of stuff, like there's the Venus that can make a return.
Yeah.
um there's a bunch of things that I think, like the little quirky in the paranormal series, that could fit that niche, and I would be I'm that's what I'm most curious to see, because I don't know what's going to be there. um but I will say, in terms of pedals, I have no inside knowledge on this. They haven't told me anything. But if they're listening, Strymon, Timeline MX, just give me one of those.
I'd be really surprised if that's not on their like future plans list.
Mhm.
I'd be really surprised because it with the Big Sky last year, or this year as we're recording 2024, it feels like that's the next thing.
Mm.
I'd be most excited about them though revamping the Mobius of the big box pedals, because I liked the Mobius, but there were just some things missing. I felt like in the grander scheme of a fully featured multi modulation effect. Um, but I couldn't even go into detail there. But there's so much more. We're going to talk about some more. We're going to do it over on the Patreon, though, so you can help support us. Yes, that's us, because I got to figure a way to start, getting Jason in on this as well, since he is co-hosting. Hopefully, at least half the episodes this year. I don't know how many.
I think
The
I
goal.
will.
Yeah, I think we're going to make sure that happens. So, if you want to support this show and keep it going for $5 a month, I have retired the other tiers. It is just $5. You can do so over at patreon.com/40watt podcast. Pay the overhead. Help me make sure I can buy Jason a dinner here and there. Put some money in the NAM fund. So in a couple of weeks, Jason and I are going to talk all about NAM as we get closer to that happening. Because that's 3 weeks away. So we'll get one more episode
Hold
in
on a
together
second, because
before
it's
we actually
going
go
in
out
and
there,
out.
and then we'll do a wrap up episode. In the meantime, y'all, for Jason, for Philip, we're gonna go over to Patreon. We'll see you over there. Be good to yourselves. Be kind to each other, and make some noise.
Laters.